If you are a Cancer, you may have noticed something unusual over the past few days. Not a crisis, not a major change. Just this: everything inside feels quieter. Your thoughts no longer overlap the way they used to. Your emotions are still there, but they're no longer pulling you too far in every direction. You look at other people, at life, at yourself, with a little more clarity without even trying. This is not random. January 11th, 2026 carries a very soft lunar signal, one that touches the sensitive core of Cancer directly. Not to stir your emotions, but to refine your awareness. Not to push you into action, but to help you see. And when the way you see begins to change, everything that follows starts to shift as well. The first part of this story speaks to that almost invisible moment, a change so subtle it's easy to overlook, yet powerful enough to open the door to an entirely different journey. Cancer's emotions during this period don't disappear. They simply grow quieter. Like a room that once had every window thrown open, letting strong winds rush through, now gently closed just enough for the air inside to settle. You still feel love very clearly. You still feel care. Even those small, unnamed sorrows are still there. But they no longer crowd each other. They no longer compete for control. Each emotion begins to take its proper place, like people who know how to wait their turn to be heard. This shift doesn't come from trying to control yourself. You're not forcing yourself to stay calm. You're not telling yourself to be stronger. It happens naturally, as effortlessly as breathing, when you no longer need to think about inhaling or exhaling. As emotional volume softens, something else quietly steps forward. Not loudly, but with certainty. Your intuition. Cancer's intuition has always been there, but before, it was often covered by waves of emotion that felt too thick. Whenever you felt too much, intuition had to whisper. And sometimes you couldn't hear it. Now it's different. When the inside grows calmer, that voice doesn't need to be loud. It only needs to be clear. You begin to understand things that once took a long time to figure out. Situations that used to confuse you start arranging themselves, like a picture finally coming into focus. You no longer react immediately. Not because you don't care, but because you're no longer being pulled away by the moment. When someone says something that touches an emotion, you don't rush to respond. You let it sit. You observe what's actually happening beneath the words. When a situation appears, you don't immediately explain yourself or defend your position. You listen inward first. And strangely enough, in that silence, you feel safer. This calm isn't emptiness. It's space. Space to choose. Space where you no longer have to prove your worth through reaction. You realize not everything needs an immediate answer. Not every feeling needs instant expression. And not all silence is loss. Sometimes, silence is the most honest way to respect your own emotions. Cancer is learning a very rare skill. Feeling deeply without being governed by feeling. You still resonate. You still care. You still hurt when it's necessary. But those emotions no longer decide your actions for you. You can tell the difference between what you feel and what you need to do. That small space between the two is a sign of inner maturity. It keeps you from getting lost inside your own emotional world. You may also notice that familiar emotional spirals no longer pull you in. Things that once triggered strong reactions now simply pass by. Not because they no longer matter, but because you can see the wider picture. And when you see the whole picture, small details lose the power to knock you off course. You understand that protecting your energy for what truly matters is far more important than reacting to everything that happens. In this quieting, a very gentle trust begins to form. Trust that you don't need to rush to prove yourself right. Trust that your emotions have value even when you don't speak them out loud. Trust that your intuition knows the way, even when you can't yet explain it in words. When that trust becomes steady, you stop looking outside for validation. You begin confirming yourself from within. This calm doesn't distance you from the world. It brings you closer to it. You hear others more clearly because inner noise no longer drowns them out. You feel the air, the light, the rhythm of life around you with a gentle attentiveness. Everything becomes clearer, as if a thin layer of fog has lifted, leaving familiar scenes brighter, truer, more real. And as your emotions find their own natural rhythm, you begin to notice something else quietly shifting. Not just how you feel, but how you see other people, how you sense the connections around you. Very subtle signals start to appear. No noise, no disruption. Just enough for you to understand that your relational world is also being rearranged, softly, and with remarkable precision. When your emotions settle and intuition begins to lead, Cancer notices a very subtle shift in the way you see other people. Not through analytical thinking, not through impulsive emotion. It's a natural recognition, like when the light in a room softens, and suddenly you can see clearly what had been hidden in the shadows before. You no longer see people through their roles, their words, or the stories they tell about themselves. You begin to sense them through their energetic presence when they are near you. Some people do nothing wrong. They don't hurt you. They don't create conflict. Yet when they appear, you feel your energy drop. And then there are others who say very little, who don't try to impress, but simply sitting beside them allows you to be yourself without needing armor. What matters is this. You no longer try to explain these feelings. Before, you may have wondered why you felt drained around certain people, or why distance appeared without a clear reason. Now, you don't need a complete explanation. You trust the signal inside you. Not to judge, but to guide. Cancer doesn't become cold. You remain compassionate. You still care deeply about how others feel. But you no longer place yourself in the position of carrying everything. You understand now that empathy does not require self-sacrifice. Pulling your energy back from a misaligned connection is not betrayal. It is honesty with yourself. Some connections begin to fade without goodbyes. No arguments, no dramatic endings. You simply stop pulling closer, and they stop stepping forward. In the past, this may have weighed on you. You may have felt you owed an explanation, an apology, or at least a reasonable reason. Now, you understand something different. Not every relationship needs a clear ending to be complete. Clarity becomes the answer. When you recognize that everyone enters your life for their own season, you stop holding on to what has already fulfilled its role. You no longer force yourself to match rhythms that are no longer yours. And strangely enough, when you stop maintaining false harmony, the connections that remain become much lighter. You begin to curate your social space naturally, not out of fear of being hurt, but out of respect for the peace you've just reclaimed. You realize your presence is valuable, and not everyone needs access to it at all times. You allow yourself to step back without guilt. You allow yourself to be alone without feeling lonely. Cancer also starts to see the invisible dynamics within relationships. Unspoken expectations, emotional obligations you carried without being asked. As awareness shines its light there, you gently set them down. No resentment, no blame, just release, with the understanding that love does not require exhaustion. You feel more at ease around people who don't demand explanations for how you feel. Conversations slow down. They grow deeper. Fewer words, more meaning. You lose interest in connections based only on habit or history. You seek resonance in rhythm, in values, in how life is seen. And when you find it, you realize you don't have to work to sustain it. It stands on its own. In this quiet reordering, you learn a deeply human lesson. Choosing the right companions is not only a gift to yourself, but an act of respect for everyone involved. When you stop forcing yourself to stay where you no longer belong, you also free others from roles they no longer need to play. And as your relationships grow clearer, you begin to sense something else shifting. Not in people, but in the rhythm you share with them. The rhythm of meetings, of waiting, of the spaces between connections. Everything slows just enough for you to notice that it's not only people who are changing. The way you experience time itself is becoming gentler, softer, and more aligned. And even the way you experience time is changing in a very gentle way. Not because the clock is slowing down, and not because life suddenly has less to do. The change is happening inside you. In the place where you once felt pushed by invisible timelines, by the pressure to move faster, to keep up, to never fall behind. Now, that pressure quietly recedes, like water pulling back when the tide turns. Cancer begins to notice that you no longer wake up feeling chased. That quiet fear that if you don't do enough today, tomorrow you'll be left behind, starts to fade. You move through your day with a different rhythm, slower but not heavy, more spacious yet never lost. Things come and go, and you remain in the middle of them, fully present. Before, time often felt like a burden. It pushed you to compare yourself to others, to past milestones, to expectations you believed you should have reached by now. Each time you looked back, you may have asked yourself why you weren't where you thought you should be. In this new rhythm, that question no longer holds power, not because you've given up on your dreams, but because you understand that forcing time has never created anything lasting. You begin to trust inner readiness more than external deadlines. You trust that when your awareness, your energy, and your clarity are truly aligned, what is meant for you will find its way to you. No need to pull it closer. No need to hold it in place. Time no longer feels like something to conquer. It becomes a companion that knows how to listen. Waiting, which once made you restless, now carries a different feeling. It no longer feels like delay or punishment. It feels like a necessary pause, a space where things inside you are quietly rearranging themselves. You begin to sense that even when nothing obvious is happening, something unseen is still forming. And that trust alone is enough to keep impatience away. Cancer also becomes gentler with yourself. You no longer blame yourself when progress doesn't move as fast as you once expected. You understand now that every phase has its own rhythm, and not every rhythm requires hurried steps. Some paths can only be walked through presence, not speed. And you are learning to walk that way, one step at a time, steady and sure. As the fear of being left behind dissolves, something else fades with it. The need to control everything. You stop gripping the future tightly. You stop building endless scenarios just to feel safe. You allow what hasn't arrived to remain unarrived. You allow answers that need time to ripen fully. In this letting go, you don't lose your sense of direction. You regain your calm. Time begins to take the shape of rhythm, the rhythm of conversations that happen at exactly the right moment. The rhythm of decisions that appear when doubt is gone. The rhythm of opportunities that open without competition or force. You realize that when the inside is quiet enough, the outside naturally rearranges itself. No struggle, no rush. And in this feeling of living in rhythm, you come to understand something profound. Life is not asking you to move faster. It only asks you to arrive fully within yourself. When time is no longer your enemy, life stops testing you with pressure. And everything begins to respond with softness, with well-placed pauses, with the quiet knowing that you are exactly where you need to be, even as the journey continues to unfold. Even as the journey continues, there is a sense of standing still without fear. And within that steady stillness, something else begins to form, very quietly. No noise, no announcements. You simply start to notice that you no longer approach every choice with the familiar doubt you once carried. Cancer once had the habit of looking outside for reassurance, a nod of agreement, a piece of advice to feel safe, a sign that you weren't choosing the wrong path. Now, before asking anyone else, you listen to yourself first. Not because you believe you know everything, but because you trust that what you feel inside is honest enough to serve as a starting point. And once you begin trusting that inner anchor, the outside world loses its power to shake you the way it once did. Decisions that used to keep you awake at night now arrive more gently. You don't need to imagine dozens of scenarios just to calm yourself. You don't need long arguments to convince your own mind. A quiet clarity appears, as if you simply know what fits and what doesn't. That knowing comes without excitement. It comes without fear. It's just there, steady and calm. You also notice that you're no longer in a hurry to explain your choices to others. Not because you've become closed off, but because it no longer feels necessary. When you stand firmly in your decisions, explanations become optional, not obligations. Some things you do not to be understood, but because they are true for you. And strangely enough, when you stop trying to be validated, your energy becomes more convincing than ever. This confidence doesn't look like the strength you once imagined. It doesn't make you speak louder or move faster. It slows you down by a single beat, yet gives every step more weight. You don't need to prove you're right. You don't feel compelled to argue to defend your perspective. When disagreement appears, you listen without shrinking. When doubt comes from the outside, you receive it without letting it erode what's within. Cancer begins to feel your boundaries more clearly. Not boundaries built for defense, but natural boundaries born of self-respect. You know how much you can give without becoming exhausted. You know when to stay and when to step back. And most importantly, you no longer feel guilty for placing yourself where protection is needed. Trusting yourself also changes how you respond to mistakes. When something doesn't turn out perfectly, you don't rush to blame yourself. You see it as information, not a verdict. You adjust, you learn, and you move forward. No prolonged self-punishment. No questioning your worth because an outcome fell short. This gentleness is what allows you to go farther without forcing yourself to become hard. You begin to understand that real strength doesn't come from always being right, but from being grounded enough not to collapse when things remain unclear. And when you live from that grounded place, you create safety for yourself and for those around you. Others can feel it, even when you don't say a word. A calm that spreads. A quiet sense of trust that's difficult to name. In this state, you no longer feel like you're searching for direction. You are already walking your path with deep inner agreement. And when your inner world stands with you like this, what lies ahead no longer feels like a test meant to measure you. It feels like a natural continuation, meant for a version of you that is more ready, more stable, and deeply confident in your ability to receive what is waiting just beyond this moment, to receive what is waiting ahead. And it is right in this very still place that you begin to understand the true nature of what is unfolding. January 11th, 2026 does not carry the energy of being pushed forward. It doesn't demand immediate decisions. It doesn't force a turn. It doesn't create a moment that requires sudden change. Instead, it feels like a subtle pause, a moment where everything inside you is gently brought back into alignment. Cancer can feel this clearly, not through excitement, but through a sense of stability slowly spreading within, as if scattered pieces are quietly finding their rightful place. Your awareness is being refined. What once felt unclear becomes sharper. What once looked appealing but was never truly aligned loses its pull on you. There's no struggle to let go. You simply no longer want it. This is preparation without noise. No ritual, no visible signs for others to notice. Yet inside you, a new foundation is being laid. A foundation of clarity, of seeing before stepping in. Because of this, the choices that soon appear in your life won't arrive as painful tests. You won't need to learn through mistakes that break you open. You won't have to pay with hurt to understand what could have been seen earlier. You are being prepared to choose correctly from the beginning. Not because you become perfect, but because you become aware enough to recognize what is not meant for you. When awareness is clear, life no longer needs disruption to wake you up. It doesn't need loss or crisis to push you out of places that no longer fit. You step away before things grow heavy. Cancer may notice that you are moving more slowly now, but this is not hesitation. Each step carries depth. You don't chase opportunities out of fear of missing out. You don't cling to promises just because they sound attractive. You listen inward before moving forward. And that inner signal becomes increasingly precise. A natural form of protection begins to take shape. Not through walls or emotional distance, but through early recognition. When something feels off, you pause without needing a clear explanation. When a path no longer feels right, you turn away without waiting for it to collapse. This is how life becomes lighter. Not because there are fewer challenges, but because you stop walking into places that demand too high a cost. In this quiet space, you also begin to trust that you don't need to rush to prove your readiness. What belongs to you will arrive when you are truly able to hold it without harming yourself. You don't need to grow faster than your natural rhythm. You are growing correctly, from the inside out, with understanding arriving before action. And as you live from this state, life starts responding differently. Less resistance, less conflict, less pullback into old cycles. Everything unfolds as if an invisible hand is clearing the path, not to make you move faster, but to help you move correctly. You don't need to announce that you are ready for what comes next. You only need to keep listening, keep being present, and allow what has already been aligned within you to guide you to where you are meant to go in a way that is calm, steady, and deeply real.